Well, welcome back to another week at DroneDJ. You know what? Let me just say that again. Welcome back to another week at DroneDJ. We've got some more DJI Leak for you this week. Also, gonna touch base on the FAA's Remote ID, especially for those of you in states. We've also got an interesting drone mailbox, plus a video showing how it's going to work. And then we also have some live streaming update for Drone Sense that's going to support your DJI Matrix 30 and Matrix 30T. At the end, for those of you who are going to Burning Man, there is a potential drone show planned. So
Yep.
back to our DJI League first. Let me share the screen.
We got our first photos of the
This is
actual
about the goggles,
thing.
right?
I don't know why I'm singing, but yeah, I was super excited when I saw these. They came out at like 10 o'clock at night over from both Deals Drone and Asa LV. Two notorious leakers. And so yeah, you can definitely see how it's super small now. Like
Yeah.
they're much smaller than the FPV goggles are. They have the two antennas on the top, and then they're like the same
Almost like
color. They take a
swimming
lot of
goggle
design
size,
cues.
you know?
Yeah, like they take a lot of design cues from the FPV ones, but they're very much meant to be smaller. They're like, you can see. I think the biggest thing is the cooling vents on the bottom. To keep them cool. So it'll be interesting to try these things out whenever, see how they feel. Because it's not like the other ones like went down to your nose almost. So
And I feel like if I wear them long enough, my neck hurts because it's
mhm.
so front heavy, right?
Yeah, they do look like very like heavy. So these like hopefully are going to be like you can wear them for much longer. They kind of remind me of like they're like more like a mainstream version of like what you'd see on like the Drone Racing League, or like more like homemade FPV or Cine Whoop and FPV stuff. So much more hopefully comfortable. Although I think you're definitely not going to be wearing glasses with these. These are going to be like real damage. I don't know if you can wear them with the other ones. They look like they were a little bit bigger, so maybe you can fit a pair of glasses in
Yeah, I
there.
mean, I could wear my glasses with my VR set, but I don't like how it
Mhm.
feels. I always have to put on
You wouldn't be
contact.
able to fit your glasses underneath these, like these,
No,
not at
no,
all.
no,
So
no way I would. Yeah, I'd
hopefully
have
you
to
like
wear
stick your
contacts.
finger in your eye and put in contacts in. But
Yeah,
so yeah, I mean,
I do like the size. I have to say, I do like the compact size. I'm looking
yeah,
forward to
I
seeing
like that
it.
they're much smaller. I feel like it's gonna be easy to fit inside. I mean, it'll go along with the smaller Cine Whoop style drone that they're supposed to be coming out with, the DJI Avata, whenever that happens. So
Hopefully next month.
hopefully soon. And so you could probably fit them like on a smaller bag. Like, they're about the size of a water bottle. One of the image comparing them. I didn't put it in this article, sadly, sorry, but you can see a photo of them like in a hand. Like they're tiny. Like they're gonna be very easy to put into a backpack or a small bag.
I'm just looking forward to that comfort level, right? If it's more
Hmm.
compact, it's not going to be that front heavy tilting down, right?
Hmm.
And also, if you're flying this in, obviously warmer weather, the cooling I'm sure is good for the goggles, but also I'm hoping that this isn't too big sitting on the face when you're flying in like 40 Celsius out there.
Oh yeah. Hopefully these are going to be. Hopefully, also they'll be compatible with the FPV. I mean, it doesn't make sense why they wouldn't. Like, maybe they're using a different transmission system, but I doubt that they are. Between the FPV
I guess
and
depends on your
Nevada.
receiver, like if you fly your
Yeah.
regular FPV drone or transmitter, right? I guess depends on what you
Because you
put.
can use DJI's FPV stuff, like the one
Yeah,
they have stuff have now with other drones. It doesn't have
yeah.
to be with DJI's. So
It is
hopefully this
third modular.
will be like open to everyone and open to the previous FPV drone, because I think some people might prefer these over the other ones. So, certainly.
Maybe a little sideway, but I remember seeing the projection like glasses from Epson several years ago. They were trying that for the drone market. So you're wearing them like regular glasses like this, right?
Hmm.
But your video feed is like being projected onto your lens. So you can see
Yeah.
through at the same time. The user experience wasn't that great back then. But I also never saw, product improvement. So I wonder if just technology wasn't there or just wasn't enough user interest.
Yeah, I forgot. I need to maybe see if I can find the guy's business card and reach out to the guy. But there was a company we found at CES that had like um like AR glasses that were also compatible with DJI, some DJI drones
Right.
that you could get the display up on the glasses. And I'm like, I need to try these out. I don't have the budget. Maybe they'll send me one, but like, like $15,000 glasses or something. But like, I don't know, that'd be cool to see.
Yeah, I guess. Well, the question is, say if beyond visual line of sight was
Mhm.
entirely possible, right? Do you prefer sitting in a nice AC or heated room with a big monitor display of your video feed and all the information on there, or wearing glasses or goggles or anything and standing outside?
Yeah, I guess it depends on your personal preference. 'Cause I bet some people would rather have the TV. Some people would rather have the goggles because they're probably it fills their vision, so it might be easier. But then I guess if you're doing inspections, you might want to see all the cameras, all the camera views instead of just like the FPV
Well,
cameras
then
on the
it's
front.
just like your security cam monitor. You'd have
Yeah,
multiple, camera display on there.
yeah, you'd be able to see like way more. Yeah, but I remember like I've talked to some FPV people. Like they really like the immersiveness of like the goggles. Like I don't think they could do those crazy things without having those goggles on.
Right. Yeah, that's true too.
Mhm.
Speaking of beyond visual line of sight, we have the news about FAA's remote ID. In the past couple of years, I mean, we've seen many heated debates from especially the US community. It's mostly commercial versus recreational, the
Yeah,
hobby guys, right? Are they supporting, are we supporting the remote ID versus are we against it because of privacy rules? So if you ask me, I think if we're going to move down the road as beyond visual line of sight, we need something like remote ID. We need a better way to identify different drones in the airspace, but that's the
mhm.
same for general aviation. I also
Yeah,
want to know when a small Cessna, is flying in the air, like they're posing bigger threats to drones. So
yeah,
that
because
rule has to go both ways.
I remember I made the comparison between remote ID with ADSB out. I remember I looked back into it, and ADSB out is required, but only like in certain areas, and I think it's like above ten
Controlled
thousand
airspace,
feet.
mostly
Control
controlled
A, B,
airspace.
C,
Yeah.
A, B, and C, Class E, and then like you're in Class E though when you're above 10,000 feet, and
But the
then
rule
there's a
is
whole there's a
coming
whole bunch
out.
of like stipulations, so you can still fly around without ADSB
But
out. That
but the
means
rule
that
is coming out for general aviation,
yeah, hopefully,
for
and
transponder, basically, for all
for
airplanes to carry transponder, like, all
and
places.
the majority of that already happens. I think you already got to have some sort of transponder because you
But
can
you always
track.
worry about the ones that don't.
You
The
always
thing
worry
is
about
the
because
ones that can fly.
the general aviation is so big and like the FAA is so limited on what they can investigate and what they can enforce. There's a lot of pilots that get away with a lot of stuff that isn't legal, but there's no one really there to enforce the rules. There's probably going to be the same thing with drones. It's going to be just like there's so many drone pilots and the FAA is not going to be able to enforce
Well,
the
I
rules
think
they
one
have.
of the heated debates was remote ID. What is actually being displayed as
That's
information?
another thing. It makes sense. I think like there's concern. I think like both sides are pretty much right on this. That the commercial side, like, yeah, we need this for the drone technology and moving to BVLS and drone deliveries and all that other stuff. And then like the recreational side's like, okay, but who's this being shared with? It's gonna be like FlightAware, where like I can
And
see
what is
every
being
drone
shared?
everywhere. Yeah, like I don't want to be flying a drone and like everyone knows where I am. I mean, yeah, if the police knows where I am, but like if it's just the police, I think it's probably fair. Just in case they need to get a hold of someone, they need to find that the drone pilot because they're flying into somewhere they're not supposed to be, or they think they're going to be a threat. They need to make sure that like that's probably a valid concern, but just me be able to see everyone else or everyone else be able to see me is like a little concerning.
So what it comes down to, if you look at either general aviation or your
Mhm,
vehicle license plate, what you're seeing or what is being publicly displayed is, a registration number,
mhm,
right? So if you get any of the apps on your phone to check the airspace activity, you can see, let's say if a plane has transponder, I can get my flight radar on my phone and just hold it against the plane. It's going to tell me the plane's registration number. It's going to tell me the altitude, heading, whatever is in flight planning that plane has
mhm.
filed, right? But I'm not gonna go see the pilot's personal information,
Yeah,
their name, their phone number, everything out there. So I think that's the part for remote ID that's not very clear right now. Is what is the manufacturer sharing to FAA? And
Yeah.
then what is the FAA sharing to the other agencies, like your local law enforcement agencies? Right? That's the
And
question. I
then
mean, if
what?
they're just displaying
Yeah.
my registration number, then honestly, I don't care. I think that's good because
Mhm.
anyone who has that information, has concerns, has to go to FAA with that reference number. And then, FAA is the middleman that keeps that, detailed personal information private. Um,
And
so
I was
that's the
talking
part
with,
we really need clarification.
and I was reading something on it was an old article back in like 2010 when the blacklist for, I don't know if everyone knows about general aviation, there's a blacklist of like you can track almost every flight, we're using like FlightAware or Flight
Yeah.
Tracker or whatever. But there's a blacklist where you can pay in or submit a reason why you shouldn't be on there. So there's a lot of politicians, there's a lot of businesses who want to hide where their CEOs are going for both security and business reasons or whatever. But like that list got leaked. And so they're talking about like why like their argument is that general aviation, they use airports that are funded by taxpayers, and so they need to be, they're using the public commons, so should be tracked. And I'm thinking like for drones, I guess we use city parks, county parks,
Or
state
airspace.
parks.
The
Yeah, we use
argument
the
is
airspace, but
with
we're not
airspace is a common good.
in the airspace is common. We're not really using the like airports to take off from. The airspace itself isn't like paid for by people. But then I
Well,
guess
you
like
are paying for your taxpayers' money does go to FAA.
yeah, it doesn't have any against the FAA airspace, whatever. But what I mean, like it's like, okay, like maybe everyone should be public. But I'm like, yeah, maybe it's like you can go back and forth with like, yeah, everything should. And I'm like, okay, well maybe this should be fixed. Like, oh, but everyone, it's a mess.
Yeah, we haven't seen actual details. I mean, again, like I said, if you ask me, I think remote ID or some kind of detecting the drone
Yeah.
in airspace where it is, right? I don't care that much for who is flying it, but if I'm flying in a common airspace, I want to know, are there any other drones in that same space?
Hmm. That's
What's their
be very
speed,
useful.
where
Yeah.
they're going to? I want to make sure I'm not crashing into them, right? Especially if BB loss starts happening more and more often.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm just looking at my screen versus looking at like what's actually in the air, then I need to know how to do my detect and avoidance in the air.
Would be nice, like even if you're doing a job out there. I've done a few jobs out there already with more than one drone in the air. So being able to like just be able to easily see like, oh, this guy's, because we're communicating, but we're not like always communicating. Like sometimes you just go like you move to the left, move to the right a little bit just because you want to. But sometimes we were trying to get the same. One of them we were trying to get the same shot with two different drones, and also like I'm going up, and all of a sudden like I go up, I'm like, oh, there's his blades. Okay, like because I didn't know he moved over to the left a little bit because we were like side by side. He moved over, and we almost had an issue, but we did it. So, but like that'd be nice to know for future reference. You can see like, okay, so he's like 15 feet above me, so like don't go up
And I
or
wonder
move to the
if that's
left.
something, DJI had that AirSense. They
Hmm.
had that button on the controller, right? So if you
Hmm.
turn it on, you can see the other DJI users in like a vicinity of
But it's not
area.
on every drone. That's on like
It's
what is
not
Air
it's
2
not
S
on
and
every
Mavic
drone.
3.
But I wonder if there's any way, in that same ecosystem that DJI can build something if everyone from DJI users turn it on. Like
Hmm.
it would actually detect the
I
input
think,
from the other
yeah,
drone to make sure you don't crash into it.
I think a
Right.
lot of like serious drone pods will probably keep that on just as like a, because I bet they're like, well, I would let them know this, so like I'll turn it on for people to know this. Like I would go out there to a park and turn it on because if I'm flying out there, I would like to know where other people are flying, so I'll let people know where I'm flying. But you don't get to see like it'd be nice if you just do that, but they don't see where you are. They
Yeah.
just see where the drone is. So hopefully
And
that'll be what drone remote ID looks into. Like, oh, you can see where all the drones are, you just don't know where the pods are.
there are still a lot of uncertainties. I've had a company who was interested in counter drone, right? Especially as a service to protect important infrastructure. So they purchased two testing units from different manufacturers, and they look like your big, satellite dish,
Hmm.
right? So supposedly, you take them to any site, they would scan the airspace and tell you what drones, what type, and
Hmm.
who's in the air. So they tested it on our site where we had multiple drones in the air at the same time. It wasn't successful.
Hmm.
They would miss certain models of drones because they had two different kinds, and each would miss different kinds of drones in the air.
Yeah.
Um, and then it would missing critical information such as what's the altitude, So it can give you, one of them can give you GPS, can give you the horizontal positioning. But I need to know the vertical, I need to know altitude, right? And then another question is the altitude adjusted for above sea level? Or is the altitude adjusted for above ground level? Then if you have elevation change, whose ground level is it adjusting to, right?
Yeah, and also I think we talked about like what happens when we have like air Artel and DJI in the air. Like how is that going to work between the two? Is it
Can
going to be built
Autel
into
see
the app?
DJI or can DJI see Autel?
Yeah, hopefully, and hopefully the FAA. I mean, FAA has experience doing that with like different brands of planes. You just kind of like got to standardize things, and being able to like. I think trying to get a drone company to standardize might be a little hard at first, but hopefully they'll all come together and be like, yeah, maybe we should standardize this kind of stuff. But they have experience trying to figure that one out, so I'm not too concerned by that. But like, totally probably in the early days, it might be a little rough to get. I'll tell they'll play nice with DJI, they'll play nice with Skydio, they'll play nice with all the other companies out there.
And then the challenge is if there's another app you have to use, right, to monitor, all the drones around your airspace. Are you using, let's say, your DJI controller? Then you have to have something else on the side to
Yeah,
display
the
just the
RC you can't
airspace.
put third party apps on it, so how are you going to see everything else, or is it going to be built into the app? Hopefully, it's something like the FAA just requires to be built into the software that you use to fly with. So they already do have the map feature on DJI. I know both DJI and Autel have it. I still haven't flown much with the Skydio, so but you can just pull up a map.
But then timing is also an issue. Because if you look at any third-party apps development, it's only 1 year after Mini 2 was released, we can finally use Lychee with Mini 2 as a third-party app. For both Mavic 3 and Mini 3, just the software SDK package isn't even open.
Yeah,
So
and
when is
you
that
don't have the
time going to
SDK
be open?
packages for like the new drones at all.
Yeah,
You
and
don't know.
knowing DJI is usually, I mean, DJI is already faster than the other manufacturers, but still knowing DJI, any
Yeah.
new drone release, the app only gets finalized, 6 months after the hardware is actually released. So there's always a catching up period. So timing is always an interesting element.
Yeah, with other apps, with like Apple, when they've had requirements put into their apps, like they usually give them like a year or something like that to implement the changes. Like I don't know. I don't think like there's to be a drone, like to sell a drone, like I have an app with a drone, like I don't think there's like a certification you need. Like DJ, I don't think DJ has to like submit their app to the FAA for approval. So that might have to be a change where they have to now be approved by the FAA. Like, oh yeah, all the safety features that we require now in this are in the
Yeah, because
software.
when you look at the actual airplane, your
Yeah,
instrumentation, like your instrument, it has to basically meet the
everything
compliance.
has
The same,
certification in a
everything has
general
to meet the
airplane, like
compliance.
down to like the buttons, down to the like everything has to be certified to be safe to fly. And right now, like we have that on the aircraft for the most part, but like not for the controllers or the software, at least for the most part.
Well, I do see that comment. I agree. I think when remote ID does roll out, it should just be, especially to the public, even to law
Yeah.
enforcement, right? I think it should be the drone only, not just the operator's location, but also not personal information about the operator. Because basically, if you look at them, for example, DJI update in the past month, is now I have to log into my own DJI account
Hmm.
on my controller to bind that controller with the drone. So when I switched my smart controller with the N1 controller on, let's say, my Air 2S, I actually had to log into my own personal DJI account when they made the update. Because it
Hmm.
used to be just controller and the drone binding, right? But no, right now it's your DJI account, controller, and the drone binding. And now I'm worried what personal information I'm putting in my DJI account. Would that information be available to FAA or local law enforcement or anyone through the remote ID?
Yeah. There's a lot of good that can come out of remote ID, but if it's not implemented correctly, it can be a very more, damaging effect to the drone industry, I think.
I hope they start small. I hope they start with very limited information And then as they figure things out, start adding other levels of
Yeah.
information. And then plus, keep in mind, like your DJI account or your Autel account, I'm pretty sure none of that is actually synced with the FAA, pilot user database.
Mm.
So there's nothing stopping me from using, like a dummy
Yeah, use
account
your F your
information.
your
Yeah,
EFA
like
at FA
there's no
EFA.FAA.
verification.
Here's my FAA account.
Yeah, I mean, I could have the drone registered, let's say, under my company name, and I could
Mhm.
have a 10-person pilot team. Who knows which one is flying that day, right?
Yeah, that's true. Like, I mean, you share your accounts, share your drones with everyone. Like, they're not going to know exactly who it is. They're just going to know the company, which is, with planes, you can look into like find out like what companies, if it's owned by a company, owned by an individual, and stuff like that. You can. There's a pretty smart people who have been tracking stuff. I mean,
But it takes looking. It's not like
yeah.
readily
I mean,
displayed, let's say, on your flight radar, right?
even the FAA, even like the aviation stuff isn't perfect because like Elon Musk, for example, there's been this huge battle between him and this Twitter account who tweets out where he's going all the time. And they've changed their identifications. They've like tried to hide it from FlightAware. They try to like hide all this stuff, but like you can still find it. Like it's not like impossible to figure this stuff out still. Who what planes owned by who and where they're going, even if they aren't even being publicly tracked. So yeah, there's a lot. It's gonna be a big change for the industry. So
Definitely. Well, there was one more comment. You know what? I'll just say I just wish business can stay clear of politics. But we don't know. We'll never know, right? I mean,
mhm,
that was one of the reasons when you look at the previous DJI US lawyer, basically their legal VP left. His comment was, he wished the industry can stay clear of politics and just technologies can stay technologies.
mhm.
Just unfortunately, that's not the case. So we shall see.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, moving on, we've got a interesting looking drone mailbox. Let me pull up the actual video from the company.
The
This is how it looks.
this one's interesting. So drone deck is looking at building out these boxes that can work with not just the U.S. mail, which is what they're testing out now, but as well as DoorDash, Uber Eats, and other like delivery services to where it's kind of like you don't have to worry about. I guess it kind of goes to this one spot. You pick up your food, whatnot. It goes. What works and how it works inside this box is, I think, a question to all of us. Of how it works. I can totally see U.S. mail just like a mail person still has to come and like put all the mail in the drone, and then it just go like just because I have no faith in the U.S. Postal Service at all. But
And if you look at this, looks like they're using, some kind of cable system.
yeah, it's
So
like
if you
hooked
ask
down, which
me,
is
the box
interest
looks fairly small. So how much wind would actually push that
and
cable?
if this is handling like 3 or 4 different like companies, like if you have your mail bot, your mail your mail container, and then you have your food container like for Uber Eats, and then one for DoorDash and one for whatever. Um, how does it like determine the difference? Because like if you look, I mean, this is kind of a fairly simple simplification of what they're trying to do here. For like if it's just one thing, that's easy. But
Mhm.
if you look at the image, there's like a mail receptacle on the front. So and then
So
someone's
if
opening up
people,
the back and
yeah,
taking
if
food
they
out.
drop mail in there,
Yeah. So like how does the drone determine the difference between the bag of food and the container holding all the mail? So um
we don't know who's doing the sorting. I think
who's
they
I
need
get to
another. Yeah, that's what they need. They need another robotic drone on the ground to do the sorting.
well, yeah. Oh my god. I mean, this is super cool. Like, it's a cool idea. Like having these kind of like central areas to do things. On Amazon did it with their mailboxes, and instead of being delivered to you, you go to a central area. Having something like that where instead of maybe this might be a solution to the last like what's the term? Not last mile, but the last foot now or whatever is what they're talking about with the drone delivery. Where like trying to figure out how to land at a house instead of landing in a tree. This could be a solution to that, where instead of you going to having the drone land to your house, the drone lands at a mailbox, like down like a block from you. So you just walk down a block and pick it up and come back. Sucks for people who really don't want to leave their house, but it it is what it is.
Well, it's certainly interesting to say the least. I guess we'll see more coming up. And is
Yeah,
it serving, let's say, one box, per house, or is it like your community mailbox where you
I
have, would
I
they
bet
put a
it.
group of them,
Yeah,
right?
I don't know if you have this up in Canada, but like here in the States, it depends on like the neighborhoods you live in. Like my neighborhood doesn't have them because each house has their own mailbox. But like if I just go like a couple blocks over to a different city, they have like
Community
uh, they have
mailboxes.
like a big. It's a blue.
Yeah.
If you live in essays, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The blue U.S. postal mailbox. That's like every couple blocks. That's where you put your sent mail in, and the mail you receive goes to your house. But there could be something like that where these are like every couple blocks, so you kind of like can use it. But I think you would need
Right.
like 2 or 3 of them instead of just one, especially if it's like food.
I
And
mean,
it's
we
only.
have them for newer developments. Like if it's a new subdivision development, they
Mhm.
no longer do the door-to-door mail delivery. It's like
Hmm.
in states, it's a couple of blocks. You have a centralized, big community mailboxes, but they're individual, right?
Hmm.
Like your
Yeah.
unit or your house would have like a little box in there for yours.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like every apartment complex down here kind of has that. So,
yeah.
um, some
You
of
still
that.
need some kind of ground solution, if you ask me. Like
Yeah.
the aerial isn't the only solution. You still need other pieces to fit in.
Yeah. I feel like we're just getting like ancient. Like, okay, we get the drone to the house, we can't get on the lawn. But now we get the drone to a box. And we have to find where to get the box to the house, and then then we gotta get the box up the driveway. Then we gotta get the box up the steps, and then we have to get it to the door, and then
Yeah.
it's gonna
And
be it's
also
gonna be
also
like a
the other
problem
thing
like
is
every couple
people
feet.
people are talking about being like environmental. I'm all in for environmental, right?
Hmm.
But no one talks about how much like environmental damage it is to have the manufacturers producing the lithium polymer batteries.
Yeah,
The batteries don't just come out of nowhere. Like it's not just plug in to charge and that's it, right? There's
they
still the
don't grow on
production
trees.
and then the disposal of those batteries afterwards. Like what
Hmm.
about environmental impacts of those?
Yeah, the battery production company. I mean, there's been a lot of improvements over the last couple of years. Although not a lot of companies are really public about how they're changing the batteries. Tesla is very public, but that's only going to be in Tesla cars. So that's uh, not really a plus for the entire industry. They're not going to sell their batteries to other people. But
And the mining of the initial lithium to begin with, right?
yeah, I think one thing like a lot of companies are trying to limit the amount of lithium they put in there, or there's a nickel, or there's another like rarer element, not nickel, but there's another like rare element that has to come into it that they're trying to reduce the amount of how much they put into it. Um, so
While the other two short pieces of news is DroneSense is now enabling the live video stream, especially the Matrix 30 and Matrix 30T are targeted for your first
mhm.
responder community, right? So live stream is definitely key because they can send the video feed to your command center or to someone, back at the central, and it's better for decision making or resource allocation. So if that's something you're interested in, please look into DroneSense. And then the last news,
Fun one,
Burning
Burning
Man.
Man.
Are you going?
I think I might have to go now. I've never gone to Burning Man, but hey, drone show in a steel cage. I'm game.
Well, first of all, this is still being funded. It's still a
Yeah.
question mark. So if you are interested in going to Burning Man, maybe take a look, see if you want to support it. But along that story, I think it's also this year we're seeing more companies getting involved with drone show. A
They're
couple of
becoming
weeks
more
ago, I believe Elon Musk's brother, right? What was his name?
Kimball.
Kimberly Kim. So he bought a drone show company.
Mhm.
Essentially, he's looking to pair that up with his whole hospitality type of business. So we are seeing
Yeah.
more possibilities with drone shows.
They're becoming very much more popular nowadays, which are cool. I love seeing them. They're super awesome to see.
And
And
definitely, this is
this
definitely more
one,
environmental than fireworks.
it's much more environmental than fireworks. It's much more, dog and other people who are sensitive to those loud noises, friendly to those type of things. This one looks really interesting because it's not just a drone show. Like it's an immersive drone show that like I guess the drones fly around you as you're like in this steel cage. I don't know exactly how that works. Also, I don't know the
All right, it feels
scale.
like one of those safari parks where you have to sit in a cage
You have
car
to
and
go
the
the
animals are looking at you,
yeah.
right?
I don't know the scale of these boxes. Um, they're like, because there's like 3 different sizes, and I'm like, am I sitting in the small one? Is that the size of it, or am I still standing there? And that
We
would be
don't
really
know.
weird if I'm just like sitting in a small little cage.
Well, okay, just food for thought. Talking about if it's an immersive drone show, you know what I want to see is responsive. Like if I'm standing there waving or doing, different gestures, and the
They wave
drones would
too.
respond to it somehow. That's what I want to see as
Give it
immersive.
time. Give it time. I'm sure someone will do that eventually. So, but yeah, hopefully, I mean, yeah, they're still in the funding stage, so we'll see. We'll see this actually happens. Seems very Burning Man. I don't know. I feel like you you take some substances and you go in there and you enjoy it.
Yeah, you have a good time regardless.
Have a good time.
Okay, so that's all the news we got for you this week. As I mentioned, just a quick recap: the DJI goggles leak, the remote ID discussion for FAA. If any of you have input or more information, please share with us. We'll definitely keep an eye on the development. We have the mailbox, the drone mailbox. And we also talked about the drone sense update to support Matrix 30, Matrix 30T. And then lastly, if you're going to Burning Man, check out the potential drone show. And they're still asking to be funded at, let me just see, at Indiegogo. So that's all the news we got for you this week. And we'll see you back here next week.